My name is Mabel, and I am 54 years old. I live in a small house that needs a new roof drive, a car with over 200,000 miles on it, and work as a bookkeeper at a furniture store. Nobody knows that my bank account holds $62 million. I won the lottery 6 months ago and told no one. I kept it secret because I wanted to test my family. I wanted to know who truly loved me. My daughter failed that test in the most painful way imaginable, right at her own wedding. Before I share what happened, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment below with your location. And if you have ever wondered whether the people closest to you love you for who you are, or what you can give them, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to hear how this story ends. I spent 28 years working at Thompson Furniture, a small family-owned store on Main Street in our little Wisconsin town. Every morning I arrived at 7:30 to open the books. Every evening I closed them at 5. My salary was modest enough to pay the bills, but never enough to feel comfortable. I learned to stretch every dollar to find joy in simple things, to never complain about what I did not have. My house is a 2-bedroom cottage that my late husband Frank and I purchased back in 1994. We were so proud the day we signed those papers. It was not much, but it was ours. Frank worked at the paper mill, and I had just started at the furniture store. We dreamed of fixing up the place someday, adding a sunroom in the back, maybe putting in a garden. But life happened. Bills piled up. Dreams got postponed. Frank passed away 7 years ago. Heart attack. One morning he was making coffee, and the next moment he was on the floor. I called the ambulance, but it was too late. They said he was gone before he hit the ground. I remember sitting in the hospital waiting room alone, wondering how I would survive without him. We had been married for 23 years. He was my best friend, my partner, my everything. After Frank died, I learned to do things I never thought I could. I fixed the leaky faucet under the kitchen sink by watching videos online. I replaced the broken porch steps with wood from the hardware store. I painted the bedroom myself, choosing a soft blue color, because Frank always said it reminded him of the sky on a clear summer day. Every repair I made felt like a small victory, proof that I could keep going even when everything seemed impossible. My one small indulgence was buying lottery tickets. Frank and I used to buy them together every Saturday. We would sit at the kitchen table, check the numbers, and laugh about what we would do if we ever won. We never did, of course, but after he passed, I kept the tradition going. It felt like a way to stay connected to him, like he was still sitting across from me, dreaming alongside me. I have 2 children. My daughter Heather is 29 years old, and my son Kevin is 26. They are very different people, and as they grew older, those differences became more and more apparent. Heather was always ambitious. Even as a little girl, she wanted the best of everything. The prettiest dress, the nicest toys, the most popular friends. I used to think it was just childhood behavior, something she would grow out of, but she never did. She went to college on student loans that I co-signed, promising to pay them back once she got a good job. She got that job, a manager position at a high-end spa chain, but she never mentioned those loans again. When I brought them up once, she told me that was in the past, and I should stop dwelling on it. After Heather started her career, she began pulling away from me. Phone calls became less frequent. Visits became rare. She always had excuses. Work was busy. She had social obligations. Her boyfriend needed her attention. I told myself it was normal that adult children have their own lives, but deep down I felt the distance growing like a crack in a window, small at first, but spreading with time. Kevin was different. He was gentle and quiet, always more comfortable with books than with people. He moved to Portland after college to work as a computer technician. It was far over 2,000 miles, and he could not afford to visit often. But he called me every Sunday without fail. We would talk for an hour, sometimes more. He would tell me about his work, his small apartment, the rain that never seemed to stop. He never asked for much, and when he did ask for help, he always paid me back. I remember one year Kevin needed money for a security deposit on a new apartment. His old place had a mold problem, and his landlord refused to fix it. He called me, embarrassed, apologizing for even asking. I sent him the money that same day. 3 months later, he sent it all back, plus an extra $50 as a thank you. That was Kevin. Proud, responsible, grateful. So different from his sister. There were times when Heather would call, and I would feel my heart lift with hope, thinking maybe she wanted to reconnect. But every call had a purpose, usually a request. Could I watch her apartment while she travelled? Could I help address her Christmas cards? Could I lend her money for something urgent that she would definitely pay back? The payback never came. But I kept giving because she was my daughter, and mothers do not keep score. One Saturday evening in April, I sat at my kitchen table with my lottery ticket, just like I had done 1,000 times before. The television was on, the numbers appearing on the screen one by one. I matched 2 numbers, then 4. My hands started shaking. I matched 5. I could barely breathe. And then the 6th number appeared, and it matched 2. I stared at the ticket for what felt like hours. My mind could not process what I was seeing. I checked the numbers again and again. I walked to my computer and looked up the lottery website. The numbers matched. The jackpot was $62 million. I sat in my dark living room until 3 in the morning, unable to move. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might join Frank sooner than expected. I kept picturing his face, imagining what he would say. He would probably laugh and spin me around the kitchen. He would make a list of all the things we always wanted to do. He would be so happy. But Frank was gone, and I was alone with this secret. And in that darkness, a question formed in my mind, a question that would change everything. If my children knew I had money, would they treat me differently? Did they love me for who I was or for what I could give them? That question haunted me as the sun rose. And by the time morning light filled my kitchen, I had made a decision. I would not tell anyone about the money. Not yet. First, I needed to know the truth about my own family. The week after I won, I took time off work. I told my boss I needed to handle some medical appointments, which was not entirely a lie. My blood pressure had been through the roof since that Saturday night. I drove 3 hours to a city where nobody knew me to claim my prize. I chose the lump sum payment instead of annual installments. After taxes, I was left with approximately $40 million. I hired a financial lawyer named Mr. Warren from Madison. He was professional, discreet, and came highly recommended for handling large estates. I explained my situation carefully. I wanted the money invested conservatively. I wanted monthly statements sent to a post office box, not my home address. And I wanted absolute confidentiality. Mr. Warren looked at me with curiosity, but asked no personal questions. He set everything up exactly as I requested. The money went into investment accounts, earning interest that exceeded my annual salary every single month. On paper, I was one of the wealthiest people in my county. In reality, I still drove my old car, still wore my faded clothes, still clipped coupons from the Sunday paper. I went back to work at Thompson Furniture as if nothing had changed. My co-workers noticed nothing different. My neighbours saw the same Mabel they had always known. The only change was invisible, a number on a screen that nobody could see. But keeping such a massive secret was harder than I expected. I found myself lying awake at night, running through scenarios in my head. What if someone found out? What if the bank made a mistake? What if I was making a terrible decision by hiding this? I needed someone to talk to. Someone I could trust completely. That someone was Rosie. She had worked at Thompson Furniture almost as long as I had. We started the same year, back when we were both young mothers, trying to make ends meet. Over the decades, we had become more than co-workers. We were friends, the kind who could sit in comfortable silence or talk for hours about nothing important. Rosie noticed something was off with me about 3 weeks after my win. She cornered me in the break room one afternoon, her sharp eyes studying my face. "Something is different about you," she said. "You look like you are carrying the weight of the world, but also like you just got the best news of your life. What is going on?" I tried to brush it off, but Rosie was persistent. She kept asking gently but firmly until I finally broke down and told her everything. The lottery ticket, the $62 million, the secret I was keeping from my children. Rosie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she let out a long whistle. "That is one heck of a secret," she said. "But why keep it hidden? Why not tell your kids?" I explained my fears. I told her about Heather pulling away about the phone calls that only came when she needed something. I told her about Kevin, how different he was, how I wanted to believe he was genuine, but needed to be sure. Rosie nodded slowly. "So you want to test them?" "Yes," I said. "I need to know if they love me, for me." Rosie was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at me with serious eyes. "I understand why you want to do this," she said. "But be careful, Mabel. Sometimes the truth hurts more than we expect. Are you ready for what you might find?" I told her I was. I told her I needed to know no matter how painful it might be. From that day on, Rosie became my confidant and my co-conspirator. She helped me think through the details of my test. She reminded me to stay calm when I felt anxious, and she warned me again and again not to get my hopes too high. I should have listened to that last piece of advice more carefully. The test began on a Tuesday afternoon in May. I had practiced what I would say, running through the script in my head until it sounded natural. Then I picked up the phone and called Heather. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. "Hi, Mum. What is up?" I told her I had some bad news about the house. The roof was leaking badly worse than I had thought. Water was coming into the spare bedroom every time it rained. A contractor had looked at it and given me an estimate, $5,000 to fix it properly. Heather was silent for a moment. "That is a lot of money, Mum." "I know," I said. "I was wondering if maybe you could help me out. I would pay you back when I can." The silence stretched longer this time. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. "Mum," she finally said, "you know I would love to help, but Derek and I are saving for the wedding. We have so many expenses right now. Venue deposits, catering, flowers. You have no idea how much these things cost." "I understand," I said quietly. "Have you thought about taking out a loan?" she continued. "Or maybe there is some kind of assistance program for seniors. You should look into that." The word seniors stung. I was 54, not 84, but I kept my voice calm. "I thought maybe family could help before I went to the bank," I said. "You know I have helped you out over the years whenever you needed it." Heather's tone shifted, becoming sharper. "That was different, Mum. I was younger then. I had student loans. You cannot keep throwing the past in my face." I was not throwing anything I started to say, but she cut me off. "Look, I have to go. Derek is waiting for me. Just look into those programs, okay? I am sure you will figure something out." The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, feeling as if something cold had settled in my chest. I wrote down everything from our conversation in a small notebook. The date, the time, what she said, how she said it. Then I flipped to a new page and prepared to make my second call. Kevin answered on the first ring. "Hey, Mum. Everything okay?" I told him the same story about the roof, the leak, the damage, the $5,000 estimate. "Oh no," he said, genuine concern in his voice. "That sounds serious. Is the water damage spreading? Do you need to move your things out of that room?" I told him I had put some buckets down and moved the boxes to the closet. "That is good thinking," he said. "Okay, let me see what I can do. I do not have 5,000, but I can send you 1,000 next week when I get paid. Will that help?" I felt tears prick my eyes. "Kevin, you do not have to do that. I know money is tight for you too." "Mum," he said firmly, "you are my mother. You have helped me more times than I can count. Let me help you for once, and I will try to come visit this summer. Maybe I can take a look at the roof myself, see if there is anything I can patch temporarily." When I hung up the phone, I sat for a long time staring at my notebook. 2 children, 2 very different responses. Kevin had offered help without hesitation, even though he had so little. Heather had refused without hesitation, even though she had so much more. True to his word, Kevin sent the money exactly when he said he would. He also called twice that week to check on the roof situation. He sent me links to videos about temporary waterproofing. He asked if I needed help finding a different contractor who might charge less. Heather did not call again for 2 weeks. When she finally did, it was to talk about her wedding. Derek proposed, she announced, sounding breathless with excitement. "We are getting married in November." I congratulated her, tried to share in her happiness, but she quickly moved on to other matters. "Mum, I need to talk to you about some things," she said. Derek comes from a very prominent family. His father owns a real estate company, and his mother used to run a bank. They are paying for most of the wedding, which is wonderful, but it means everything needs to be perfect. "Of course," I said. "What do you need from me?" "Well," she said slowly, "I was hoping you could contribute something. Tradition, you know. The bride's family is supposed to pay for certain things." I told her I had been saving and could give her $2,000. It was a lot of money for me, or at least it would have been if my bank account did not have 40 million in it. 2,000, Heather repeated, her voice flat. "Mum, the flowers alone cost more than that. The cake is 5,000. Derek's parents are spending over 100,000 on this wedding." "I know it is not much," I said. She sighed heavily. "I guess it will have to do. Every little bit helps, right?" But that was not all she wanted to discuss. "Also, Mum," she continued, "I need you to think about what you are going to wear. Derek's mother is very particular about appearances. You cannot show up in something from Walmart." "I wear nice clothes," I said, feeling defensive. "Nice for a small town, maybe," she said. "But this is a 5-star hotel venue. There will be photographers. Derek's colleagues from the law firm will be there. I just do not want you to feel out of place." Feel out of place. My own daughter was worried I would embarrass her. "And one more thing," she added. "I am seating you at table 17. It is near the back, but it has a good view of the head table." "Near the back," I repeated. "It is just easier for the flow of things," she said quickly. "Derek's parents have a lot of important guests. His boss, some judges' clients. The front tables need to be for them." "I see. Do not take it personally, Mum. It is just logistics." After she hung up, I did not cry. I was too stunned to cry. My daughter had just told me I was not important enough to sit at the front of her wedding, that my clothes were not good enough, that my contribution was insignificant, and she had done it all without a trace of embarrassment. I added this conversation to my notebook too. Then I called Rosie and told her everything. "Well," Rosie said after a long pause, "I think you have your answer about Heather." "I think so too," I said. "But I want to give her one more chance, maybe at the wedding itself. Maybe she will surprise me." Rosie did not sound convinced. "Just protect yourself, Mabel, and whatever you do, do not let them see you cry." 2 months before the wedding, I received an invitation to meet Derek's parents. It was presented as a casual dinner, a chance for the two families to get to know each other. I knew it was actually an inspection. I spent an hour choosing my outfit. My best dress, a navy blue number I had bought for a co-worker's retirement party 3 years ago. Sensible shoes, a modest necklace that Frank had given me for our 10th anniversary. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw exactly what I was. A middle-aged woman from a small town who worked at a furniture store. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive. The restaurant was the most expensive in the area. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, waiters in black vests. I had never been inside before. I felt immediately out of place. Heather met me at the entrance, her eyes scanning my outfit. She did not say anything, but her lips pressed together in a thin line. She led me to a private room in the back where Derek and his parents were already seated. Derek stood to greet me. He was tall and polished, exactly the type of man Heather had always wanted. His handshake was firm but brief. "Mrs. Henderson, so nice to finally meet you," he said. His smile did not reach his eyes. His father, Jonathan, barely looked up from his phone as I sat down. He was a large man with silver hair and the confident posture of someone who was used to being the most important person in any room. His mother, Patricia, was another story. She studied me the way a scientist might study a specimen under glass. Her eyes moved from my face to my dress to my jewelry to my hands, cataloguing every detail. So she said, drawing out the word, "You work in retail." "I am a bookkeeper," I said, "at a furniture store." "Furniture? How interesting." Patricia's tone made it clear she found it anything but interesting. The dinner proceeded painfully. Jonathan talked mostly to Derek about business deals and investment opportunities. Patricia asked me questions that felt more like interrogations. Where did I go to school? What did my late husband do? How long had I lived in my current house? When I answered honestly, I saw her exchange glances with Jonathan. The glances said everything her polite words did not. This woman is beneath us. Heather sat beside me, but she might as well have been at a different table. She laughed at Patricia's jokes, agreed with everything Jonathan said, and barely acknowledged my presence. When I tried to join the conversation, she would jump in and redirect it, as if afraid I might say something embarrassing. At one point, I excused myself to use the restroom. The hallway to the ladies' room passed by a small alcove, and as I approached, I heard voices. Heather and Patricia speaking in hushed but audible tones. I stopped pressing myself against the wall. "She seems nice enough," Patricia was saying, "but quite ordinary. I hope she knows to keep a low profile at the wedding." "I have already talked to her," Heather replied. "She is sitting at a back table. I will make sure she does not cause any problems." "Good girl," Patricia sounded pleased. "You know how important appearances are. Your mother is... Well, she is from a different world. We just need to manage expectations." "I know," Heather said. "Trust me, I have been managing her my whole life. Managing me, like I was a problem to be handled." I walked to the bathroom on shaking legs. I locked myself in a stall and pressed my hands against the cold tile wall, forcing myself to breathe. I would not cry. Not here, not now. When I returned to the table, I smiled and made polite conversation for the rest of the evening. Nobody suspected a thing, but inside something had shifted, something had broken that could never quite be repaired. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a blur of phone calls from Heather. Each one contained a new demand or complaint. "Mum, I need you to call everyone on your guest list and confirm they are coming. I do not have time. Mum, please do not bring a gift that looks cheap. Either bring something nice or just give money. Mum, I saw your outfit for the rehearsal dinner. Can you find something else? That colour washes you out." I did everything she asked. I called her guests. I bought her expensive serving dish from a department store. I went shopping for new clothes, spending more than I had in years. Kevin called me during this time, sensing my stress. "How are you holding up, Mum?" "I am fine," I said automatically. "You do not sound fine." "Is Heather being difficult?" I laughed humorlessly. "Is water wet?" Kevin sighed. "I am sorry. I wish I could be there to help, but I will be at the wedding. I already bought my plane ticket." His ticket had cost him almost $400 money he could barely spare, but he never complained about it. "I need to ask you something," I said impulsively. "If I needed help, would you be there for me, even if it was inconvenient?" "Always," he said without hesitation. "You are my mum. Whatever you need, whenever you need it." When I hung up, I knew what I had to do. I called Mr. Warren and scheduled a meeting for the following week. I had some documents to prepare. The wedding was held on the second Saturday of November at a 5-star hotel downtown. The decorations were breathtaking. White roses everywhere, crystal centerpieces, silver ribbons draped from every surface. It looked like something from a magazine. I arrived early wearing the new dress I had bought. It was simple but elegant dark green with a modest neckline. I had even gotten my hair done at a salon, something I rarely did. I wanted to look my best, not for Patricia or Derek, but for myself. Heather found me in the lobby. She looked stunning in her bridal gown, every detail perfect. But her first words to me were not about how nice I looked. "Mum, why are you wearing green? I told you the family colours were navy and silver." "I did not know about specific colours," I said. "You never mentioned it." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. It is too late now. Just try to blend in, okay?" She led me to table 17, exactly where she had said. It was against the back wall near the door to the kitchen. The tables around me were filled with distant cousins I barely knew, and co-workers of Derek who looked equally out of place. Kevin arrived just before the ceremony started. He found me at my table and sat down beside me, squeezing my hand. "You look beautiful, Mum," he said. I almost cried right there. A simple compliment, the first kind words anyone in this family had said to me all day. The ceremony was lovely, objectively speaking. Heather and Derek exchanged vows under an arch of white flowers. The officiant spoke about love and commitment and partnership. I watched my daughter promise to cherish another person for the rest of her life and wondered if she even knew what that meant. The reception began with cocktails and appetizers. Patricia held court near the front of the room, accepting compliments and introducing important guests to each other. Jonathan stood beside her, looking bored but important. Heather floated through the crowd like a queen, Derek's arm around her waist. No one came to talk to me. I sat at my back table with Kevin, making small talk with the people around us, pretending I was not invisible. Then came the speeches. Jonathan went first, talking about Derek's accomplishments, his bright future, the proud legacy of their family. Patricia followed her speech, polished and rehearsed, full of references to her son's brilliance and her delight at welcoming Heather into their family. She thanked everyone who had contributed to the wedding, naming specific people, specific families, specific businesses. When she mentioned the bride's side, she said only, "And of course, we thank Heather's family for their support." That was it. No names, no acknowledgement, just a vague gesture in our general direction. Then Heather took the microphone. "I want to thank everyone who made this day possible." She began, her voice bright and practiced. "Thank you to Patricia and Jonathan for your incredible generosity and for welcoming me into your family. Thank you to my amazing bridesmaids for all your help. Thank you to Derek for choosing me, for loving me, for giving me this beautiful life." She paused, looking around the room. Her eyes landed briefly on me, then moved on. "And I want to thank my mother for raising me." She said it quickly, almost an afterthought. "I know my mum did her best with what she had," Heather continued. "She worked hard to give me opportunities even when things were tight. I hope someday she will be able to enjoy a more comfortable life. Maybe once Derek and I are established, we can help her out." A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. I saw Patricia smile knowingly. I saw guests at nearby tables glance at me with something like pity. My daughter had just announced to everyone that her mother was poor and needed charity. She had framed herself as the generous daughter who would someday rescue her unfortunate mother. She had turned me into an object of sympathy, a burden she was generously willing to bear. Kevin grabbed my arm. His face was red with anger. "Mum, do not listen to her." That was completely wrong. "I know," I said quietly. "We should leave. You do not deserve this." I put my hand on his. "Not yet. I have something I need to do first." Heather was still at the microphone, smiling and accepting applause for her gracious words about her charity case mother. I stood up from my table. Kevin looked at me with wide eyes. "Mum," I walked toward the front of the room, my heels clicking on the polished floor. Guests turned to watch. Heather's smile faltered when she saw me approaching. "What are you doing?" she whispered as I reached the head table. "I need to say a few words," I said clearly. "May I? Mum, this is not the time. It is exactly the time." I took the microphone from her surprised hands and turned to face the room. 300 guests stared back at me. Patricia's mouth was open in shock. Derek looked confused. Kevin at the back of the room was leaning forward with an expression I could not quite read. I took a deep breath and began to speak. Good evening, everyone. For those who do not know me, I am Mabel Henderson, mother of the bride. The room was silent. Every eye was on me. I want to tell you a little bit about my daughter, I continued. When Heather was born, she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I remember holding her in the hospital, counting her tiny fingers and toes, promising that I would give her the world. My voice was steady. I had practiced this part. When Heather was 3, she got pneumonia. Her father and I sat by her hospital bed for 5 days, terrified we would lose her. When she recovered, I quit my job so I could be home with her full time. I did not return to work until she started kindergarten. I saw Heather shift uncomfortably. Good. When Heather was 17, she wanted to go to a private college that cost more than our house. Her father and I sold our second car, cashed in our retirement savings, and co-signed loans we are still paying off. We wanted to give her every opportunity. Patricia's expression had changed from shock to calculation. She was listening carefully now. After my husband Frank died 7 years ago, I kept working at the same job I have had for nearly 3 decades. I fixed our old house myself because I could not afford a handyman. I drove a car with 200,000 miles because I could not afford a new one. I sent money to my children whenever they needed it, even when it meant I went without. I paused, letting the words sink in. My daughter just told you that she hopes someday to help me have a more comfortable life. She suggested that I am struggling, that I need charity, that I am someone to be pitied. I looked directly at Heather. But what my daughter does not know is that 6 months ago I won the lottery. The gasp that went through the room was audible. I saw Patricia grip her wineglass so tightly I thought it might shatter. $62 million, I said clearly. After taxes, I received approximately $40 million. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the document I had prepared with Mr. Warren. I did not tell anyone because I wanted to know something. I wanted to know if my children loved me for who I am or for what I could give them. So I told them I needed help fixing my roof. A small test. Nothing elaborate. I looked at Kevin, who was wiping his eyes. My son Kevin offered to send me $1,000 from his next paycheck. He earns barely enough to pay his own rent, but he wanted to help his mother. He also offered to fly home and fix the roof himself. Then I looked at Heather. My daughter Heather told me she could not help. She said she had wedding expenses. She suggested I apply for senior assistance programs. More gasps. More whispers. Patricia looked like she was going to be sick. Over the past few months, I continued. My daughter has asked me to sit at the back of her wedding so I would not embarrass her important guests. She criticized my clothes, my contributions, my presents. She told her future mother-in-law that she had been managing me her whole life. Heather's face was bright red. Derek sat frozen beside her. I am not saying this to be cruel, I said. I am saying this because my daughter needs to hear the truth, and this may be the only way she will listen. I held up the document. This is my new will. My son Kevin, who has shown me unconditional love and support throughout my life, will inherit the majority of my estate. He has earned it, not through money, but through kindness. I looked at Heather one final time. Heather, you will receive a small portion. Enough to remind you that I still love you because I do despite everything, but not enough to reward the way you have treated me. I folded the document and put it back in my purse. I wish you both happiness in your marriage, I said to Heather and Derek. I mean that sincerely, but I also hope that someday my daughter will understand that love cannot be measured in dollar signs, and that the people who truly matter are not always the ones sitting at the important tables. I set the microphone down on the head table. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Then I turned and walked toward the back of the room. Kevin met me halfway, his arms wrapping around me in a fierce hug. I am so proud of you, Mum, he whispered. We walked out together, leaving behind the stunned silence, the shocked faces, the ruined fairy tale, and for the first time in months, I felt completely free. The drive home from the wedding was quiet. Kevin insisted on driving my car, while his rental sat in the hotel parking lot. Neither of us spoke much. There was too much to process, too many emotions swirling in the dark car. When we reached my house, Kevin came inside and made tea while I sat at the kitchen table, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a deep, bone-weary tiredness. My phone had been buzzing constantly since we left the reception. I ignored it. I already knew what those messages would say. The first few days after the wedding were chaotic. Heather called repeatedly, her tone shifting with each voicemail. The first messages were angry, accusing me of ruining her wedding, humiliating her in front of everyone, being selfish and cruel. The next batch were tearful, begging me to reconsider, promising things would be different. The final ones were cold, informing me that I had destroyed any chance of a relationship with her. I listened to each one, but did not respond. There was nothing to say that had not already been said. Patricia called too, surprisingly. Her message was honey-sweet, suggesting we meet for lunch to clear up any misunderstandings. She mentioned several times how much she valued family unity and how wonderful it would be if we could all start fresh. The subtext was clear. Now that she knew I had money, she wanted to be my friend. I deleted her message without a second thought. Jonathan sent a formal letter to my home address offering his services as a financial advisor. He included his company brochure and a personal note about how he specialized in helping individuals with unexpected windfalls make sound investment decisions. I threw it in the trash. Derek never reached out at all. Kevin stayed with me for a week after the wedding. We did not talk much about what had happened at the reception. Instead, we did ordinary things, made breakfast together, watched old movies, walked around my garden discussing which plants needed pruning. On his last morning, as he packed his bag to head to the airport, Kevin sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "Mom," he said carefully, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "The money you mentioned in your will. I do not want it." I blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" He rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncomfortable. "I mean, I appreciate what you said at the wedding. I am grateful that you see me differently than Heather, but I do not want to inherit money that might cause problems. I do not want Heather to hate me forever. I do not want this to tear our family apart any more than it already is." I reached across the table and took his hand. "Kevin, I understand what you are saying, but this is not about the money. It never was. This is about recognizing who stood by me when it mattered. You did that. Your sister did not." He nodded slowly. "I know, and I am not saying you should change anything. I just want you to know that whatever you decide my feelings for you will not change. You are my mum. That is all that matters." I squeezed his hand tighter. "You are a good man, Kevin. Your father would be so proud of you." After Kevin left, the house felt emptier than usual, but it was a peaceful emptiness, not a lonely one. Rosie came over that evening with a bottle of wine and a listening ear. We sat on my back porch as the sun set, and I told her everything that had happened at the wedding. When I finished, she let out a long breath. "Well, you certainly made an impression." I laughed, surprising myself. I suppose I did. Any regrets? I thought about it carefully. I regret that my daughter is who she is. I regret that I did not see it sooner. But do I regret telling the truth? No, not for a moment. Rosie raised her glass. "To the truth, then." "To the truth," I echoed. The weeks that followed were a time of adjustment. I continued working at Thompson Furniture for another 3 months before finally submitting my resignation. My boss was shocked but understanding. I told him I had come into some money and wanted to spend my remaining years differently. I bought a new house, nothing extravagant, just a comfortable 3-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood outside town. It had a big garden where I could plant whatever I wanted. It had a guest room for Kevin when he visited. It had a sunroom, the one Frank and I had always dreamed about. I used a significant portion of my winnings to establish a scholarship fund for children from low-income families, the kind of children I used to teach before I switched to bookkeeping. I named it the Frank Henderson Memorial Scholarship. honoring the man who had always believed in second chances. Rosie retired around the same time I did. We started traveling together, taking small trips to places neither of us had ever been. We saw the Grand Canyon at sunrise. We walked along the beaches of California. We visited Nashville and listened to live music every night for a week. For the first time in decades, I was living for myself, and it felt wonderful. 6 months after the wedding, Heather reached out again. This time, her message was different, quieter, more honest. She asked if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us. No agenda, no expectations, just a conversation. I agreed. We met at a small cafe in town, neutral territory. Heather looked different somehow. Thinner maybe, less polished. The confidence that used to radiate from her seemed dimmed. She sat across from me, stirring her coffee for a long time before speaking. After the wedding, she finally said, "Patricia started treating me differently." "Oh," she nodded. "When she found out that you were wealthy and I was not going to inherit much, she was furious. She said I had wasted my potential. She said I should have managed you better." I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. Derek took her side. "He always does." Heather's voice cracked slightly. I started seeing our marriage differently after that. I realized that to them, I was just an asset, a connection they could use. And when that asset became worthless, so did I. I felt a flicker of something, not quite sympathy, but understanding. "I am not asking you to change your will," she said quickly. "I am not asking for money. I just wanted to tell you that I finally understand what you were trying to show me." She looked up, her eyes wet. I was so focused on fitting into their world that I forgot where I came from. I forgot who loved me first and longest. "I am sorry, Mum. I am so sorry." I reached across the table and took her hand. Not quite forgiveness, but an acknowledgement. A beginning. "I forgive you," I said slowly. "But forgiveness does not mean we go back to the way things were. You hurt me deeply, Heather. That does not disappear with an apology." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "I am not asking for that. I am just asking for a chance to prove that I can be better." I thought about all the years of disappointment, all the phone calls that were only about favors, all the moments when my daughter made me feel small. Then I thought about the little girl who used to climb into my lap and beg for stories, the teenager who cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak, the young woman who had somehow gotten lost along the way. "One chance," I said finally. "We start small, coffee once a month, no expectations, no pressure. We see where it goes." Heather nodded, relief flooding her face. "Thank you, Mum. I will not waste it." I did not know if she would keep that promise. I did not know if our relationship could ever be fully repaired, but I was willing to try because that is what mothers do. We keep trying even when it hurts, even when we have every reason to walk away. A year has passed since that conversation. Heather and I still meet for coffee every month. The conversations are awkward, sometimes filled with long silences and careful words, but they are happening. Progress slow as it may be. Kevin moved closer to home, taking a new job only 3 hours away. He visits often sometimes with his girlfriend Sarah, a kind woman who treats me like family. They are talking about marriage, and Kevin has already said that when the time comes, I will be sitting at the head table. I spend my days tending my garden, volunteering at the local library, and enjoying the simple pleasures I never had time for before. My house is filled with photographs, memories of Frank, of my children, when they were young, of the life I have built, despite everything. I am not angry at Heather anymore. Anger is exhausting, and I have learned that holding on to it only hurts the person holding on. I am not angry at Patricia or Jonathan or Derek either. They are who they are, products of their own choices and circumstances. What I feel now is something closer to peace. I know who I am. I know what I am worth, and I know that my value has nothing to do with numbers on a bank statement. If you are watching this and wondering whether the people in your life truly love you, I understand that fear. It is a terrible thing to question, and an even more terrible thing to discover the answer. But here is what I have learned. The truth, no matter how painful, sets you free. It shows you who deserves your love and who deserves your distance. It helps you build a life based on reality instead of wishful thinking. So, if you are carrying that question in your heart, find the courage to answer it. You might be disappointed by what you discover, but you might also be surprised by the people who show up when you need them most. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever tested someone you love, or have you ever been tested yourself? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I know there are others out there who need to hear that they are not alone. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Your support helps me continue sharing these stories, and every like, every comment, every subscription means more than you know. Thank you for spending this time with me. Whatever you are facing in your own life, I hope you find the strength to seek the truth and the grace to handle whatever answers you find. You are stronger than you think. You are worthy of real love. Never forget that. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, the people who truly love you will love you with empty pockets just as much as full ones.